In my career as an educator, I worked in a few different Christian schools. I remember the high school Bible teacher at one of those schools used a phrase with the students every time he started a talk. He would get up in front of them and say, "Today I'm going to share with you my favorite verse," or he might say, "my favorite story," or "my favorite passage in the Bible." Then he would proceed with different verses, stories, or passages. It quickly became a bit of a running joke with the students that every verse was his favorite verse. But in reality, I hope that this is true for all of us. I hope that each verse, each story, each passage provides something that we can cling to, something that will challenge and encourage us, something that will deepen our faith and strengthen our walk with Jesus. When I was teaching at West Covina Christian School in California, one of my students asked me what was my favorite verse. I told him that I had several favorite verses, but he really wanted me to narrow it down to one verse. What I found out later was that he was going to engrave that verse on a plaque and give it to me as a Christmas present. So I thought about it for a while and I answered Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, to give you hope and a future." This verse has always been an encouragement to me because sometimes in life we have those thoughts like, "Lord, I don't understand why this is happening," or "Lord, how come I'm going through this difficult time?" The Old Testament is filled with stories of the roller coaster ride of the nation of Israel and what they went through for centuries. One king would do what pleased the Lord and things would go well, and another king would do what was evil in God's sight and things went poorly. Jeremiah was referring to a time when God allowed the Babylonians to enslave God's people and exile them. But even though things were extremely difficult during those times, God never forgot His promise and never stopped loving His children. In the New Living Translation, verses 12 through 14 go on to say, "In those days, when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you, says the Lord." There is always something that God is calling us to do. There is always some type of response we need to give concerning what God has done for us. Jesus did not condemn the woman who was caught in adultery, but He did tell her, "Go and sin no more." In Jeremiah, we see that we are to pray and God will listen. We are to look wholeheartedly, not with a divided heart or half-heartedly, but when we look wholeheartedly, we will find God. So we have comfort in Jeremiah's words that the Lord does have a plan for our lives, a plan for hope and a future. But we cannot forget that we have to take the necessary steps to do our part if we're going to recognize this hope and this future. We need to pray to the Lord and He will listen. We need to look for God wholeheartedly and we will find Him. It just may not be where we think He will be.